We have some breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. The breaking news is that my heart is broken into a million pieces, shattered amongst the floor. For me to have to go and pick up and somehow, piece by piece, put my heart back together. I don't know if it can be done, but I must try. And if you haven't heard already, Brian Burns has been traded from the Carolina Panthers to the New York Giants in exchange for a second round draft pick and a fifth round draft pick. And the Giants, in turn, make Brian Burns the second highest paid defensive end of all time, right there behind 49ers Nick Bosa. Brian Burns' agenda has officially come to an end. And honestly, I was not prepared to present this eulogy today for the Brian Burns agenda. I really did believe at one point there was hope that the dream lived on. But unfortunately, the Giants said, you know what? We will pay Brian Burns 5 years, 150 million with 87 and a half guaranteed. And we'll throw in some chump change as well regarding the draft picks. Now, again, this is hard news for me to take in as the leader of the Brian Burns Hive, as someone who's been pushing the Brian Burns agenda since before he was even drafted. Again, I've told this story and I'll tell it again. The Brian Burns agenda started when I stumbled across him when doing draft prep. He instantly became a draft crush, and he was instantly hated on by pretty much anyone that I said that this dude's for real and this dude should be a top 5 pick. Everyone said, no, he's too skinny. He's too small. He'll never make it in the NFL. He's too skinny. He's too small. He's too light. So then began this journey that started then, that just became on me being like, hey, this guy's dope. And then other people being like, no, he's not. And so then as a result of that, I got more into the tape, and the more he just kept starting to shine. And then it became a cool situation because throughout that process, we were able to connect. I connected with him and his brother. And since then, we have stayed connected throughout this entire period in time. But again, it started back in the draft days to the point where even when I thought Nick Bosa was going number 1 overall to the Arizona Cardinals and the 49ers were picking at 2, I thought, hey, let's trade back and go pick up Brian Burns. That was I was scheming for Brian Burns back before we knew Kyler Murray was going number 1 overall to the Cardinals. So I get this question a lot. Why do you like Brian Burns so much? What's going on with the Brian Burns agenda? Well, I will break it down and explain it to you. That is my guy. That is a draft crush. And again, one of the cool things about the platform that I have is that I can connect with these actual players and talk to them and do those types of things. And that was something that I did with Brian Burns early on. And we just kept it rolling. And at first, it was a complete joke beyond the fact once he was drafted 16 overall to the Panthers, et cetera, et cetera. It was a joke. The Hive was always buzzing. We're always vibing with Brian Burns. And again, for me, it was validation in my scouting report, validation that he was indeed a top 5 talent, should have been a top 5 draft pick, as again, he got paid as the second highest defensive end in history. Again, to me, that's validation on my draft scouting. I hit on Brian Burns, but it just became one of my boys. Just became a guy that I like the person, I like the player, and we just vibed. It was a vibe, and it was a joke until the joke started to inch closer and closer to reality. And it inched so close to reality that we found out last year that John Lynch called the Panthers about Brian Burns' availability. I was told this like a week ago by someone very close to this situation that the 49ers were still showing interest in trading for Brian Burns. And so for me, what started out as a bit started out as again as my draft crush, and then the agenda was a bit, but the bit moved closer and closer and closer to reality than I ever expected. Did I ever think that the 49ers would actually be going after and trying to get Brian Burns? No, I did not ever think that was even possible, especially with Nick Bosa and what you paid for him. But the fact that it actually got to the point where the 49ers were calling on Brian Burns multiple times to see if he was available. And I'm trying to figure out right now, like how far, now that the talks are all over with, I'm really trying to figure out how far those talks really went. And if I find out, I'll tell you, because right now it's water under the bridge. Um, but the Brian Burns agenda became a vibe, became a movement. Now, a lot of people didn't like it. If you have a faceless Twitter profile that's either anime or a player, I guarantee you didn't like the Brian Burns agenda. And it's funny because all those accounts are typically troll accounts, not recognizing the long troll, not recognizing the bit that was the Brian Burns agenda. In fact, they made it even more polarizing and made its reach further. So I appreciate them and what they did to counter against the Brian Burns hive, which made the hive, in my opinion, stronger. So at the end of the day, Brian Burns, not a 49er, never thought that would have been a possibility. The fact that we even talked about it as a possibility is a win in my book. And again, big fan of Brian Burns, the player, big fan of Brian Burns, the person. Always going to be rooting for that guy for his whole career. And again, the respect is mutual. He knows I've been vibing with him for a long time. He vibes with me as well. So I wish him nothing but the best. Unfortunately, not going to happen with the 49ers. And listen, paying Brian Burns 30 million per year just wasn't going to happen. My hope was that somehow the market had soured a little bit and you get him at a bit of a value. No, he got what he was worth, and that's exactly where it should be. So I wanted to come on here, make this video because it's funny. All the tweets, so many people have hit me up with condolences, thinking about you. Brad's punching air right now. I love it. I love it. I think it's hilarious how a draft crush, again, just a guy, me scouting and saying I like this guy, has evolved into this years later. That's pretty cool to me. Again, whether you like it or whether you hated it, the fact that there were sides to the Brian Burns agenda means I win. Regardless of Brian Burns being a Niner or not, the fact that I influenced enough people to be for the hive against the hive is phenomenal. A phenomenal accomplishment that I will absolutely wear proudly. And will be my final video um, about Brian Burns. From here on out, Brian Burns under contract. He's not coming to the 49ers. It's not going to happen. But I've been waiting for this moment, for this finality. And it was the Panthers who left the door open for about 2 years, that we thought it was going to be shut 2 years ago. And to the point where we had 49ers reaching out to them up until a week ago. I'm just saying, we almost spoke that into reality. Now, paying him was a different story. But the fact that the conversations were being had, that is a win in my book. It is a big win, in my opinion, overall. Let me know what you guys thought about the Brian Burns hive. Let me know what you guys thought about the Brian Burns agenda. If you had any part in it, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, let me know. I want to hear from you guys, because this is officially an end of an era. Boy, did we have a good run. We had a great run, and I'm going to miss it. But for now, the Brian Burns propaganda will be put to rest. But boy, did we have fun doing it. Let me know how you guys feel about this in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.